Hey guys and gals, Cal Ewing here. I'm a US real estate investor who's based out of Canada. So if you're new to this site or this meetup group, my main focus is to help not only Americans get through the maze and the weeds of investing in real estate, but also Canadians who want to invest in the USA. My mission has been to help them have an easier transition to figuring out this game we call real estate investing. So tonight I have an awesome interview that I did with the lovely Kim Harris, and she's going to talk to you about tax sale overages. And now I've been involved in tax deeds quite a bit in the past, tax foreclosure auctions and buying properties that way. And I'd always heard of this mythical thing called tax deed overages, and basically helping people claim the proceeds that the county was holding for them after the sale of their house when it went into tax foreclosure. But I'd never met anyone that was actually successfully doing it. Didn't really have the time to try and learn the strategy myself. And so it was just always on my maybe list. And then recently I met Kim, who you're going to meet here in a second. And she's got an amazing business built, very simple and well thought out on how to do this overage strategy. And you're going to find that it's really cool, just the low amount of overhead you need to start the business. And you know how simple it really is when the way she breaks it down. It's something that anyone can do, even as a part-time business, to add into whatever you're doing, whether that's your career or your own real estate investing business. So without further ado, I'm going to let you talk to Kim and see what she's all about. This interview is something I recorded last night. Kim dives right in and starts giving me content right away. So here she is.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on tonight. I am very passionate about this. This is a area that I've grown to love. My name is Kim Harris. I am the legacy creator. And what I do is entrepreneurs hire me to help them master their money game and unleash their money mastery brilliance. One of the ways that we do this is through tax overages, but I have a 5-pillar system called the Silk Stocking Method, and it helps to educate and empower you on how to invest in real estate, invest in commodities, invest in the stock market, how to build a wealth legacy. And I do this by educating and empowering you with information and training to help you do that. Tonight, I wanted to go over one of the strategies that I talk about and train on because I've been doing this for about 3 years now. It's new to my business. My business is Kim 11 Legacy Enterprise. I've been in business for almost 10 years, but I just been introduced in the last 3 years to the overages market. And what overages are is when you go to a tax sale, for example, and a bidder overbids on a property, the money that is owed on taxes versus the money that is bid is what's left on the table. So if you have a $100,000 property and someone bids $150,000 for that property, there's $50,000 left on the table that goes unclaimed because the taxes had to be paid and they get theirs right off the top. But whatever is left is just left. And it's usually unclaimed. It's unclaimed because the county or the taxing jurisdiction doesn't make a big effort to notify the previous owner that the money is there for them. And they don't know it's there. Obviously, some homeowners that are losing their home to tax sales don't stand in the tax sales proceeding to watch their home go to someone else. Usually they're not even there, so they don't know that the property has been overbidded and that there's money on the table for them. So people like me go out and we find these individuals and we let them know that this money is there for them and we can help them to collect it. And that is where we make our money. Okay. So when I collect on overages, I charge a percentage of whatever the claim amount is. So if that $50,000 is on the table, and I find the homeowner that money belongs to, then I negotiate with them what my fee will be to help them to collect that from the taxing jurisdiction. Now, you might be wondering, why don't the homeowners just go back and get the money themselves? Why do they need me to help them? Like I said, oftentimes they don't even know that the money is there. They don't know that they have money that's owed them. And because of that, I'm a commodity to them because I know how to get through the system. And oftentimes getting through the system is, it takes attorneys sometimes it takes legal processes, and these individuals are already tapped for finances. So they don't want to have to spend more money to get the money that is owed them. So they're willing to work with me if I front the cash for the expenses and then help them to collect. Now, I do recoup my expenses in the negotiation process. And so the contract that I sign with them states that they will, reimburse me for any expenses after I collect for them. It depends on what county or state you're working within. It depends on the legislature that's in place for collecting on overages. I train on how to find what those rules and regulations are. I help people to understand that want to get into this business, that it is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And it does take some time. It is systematic. And because it's systematic, most people fall off pretty quickly in the process because they don't want to go through the process. And then it's like, okay, but there's so much money on the table. There's millions of dollars left on the table every single day in counties across the US. And it doesn't matter where you live, you can do this business. It doesn't matter. You just have to be a legal business registered within the US in order to do the business. But that's easy enough to do. I mean, Cal, you're doing it. So, it doesn't matter where you are. If you have a legal entity within the US, you can do business and collect overages in the US.
Well, let me back you up just a bit, Kim, just because there's a lot of Canadians that are probably going to be watching this.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the same tax foreclosure process in Canada. So basically, in general, different states have different rules.
Right.
But in general, what happens if you don't pay your taxes, eventually they're going to get foreclosed on and the county is going to claim what is owed to them, and the house is going to get sold at an auction, similar to a foreclosure sale with a bank, right? Mm-hmm. And every jurisdiction or state has slightly different rules around that. And a lot of investors have flocked to those tax foreclosure auctions to try and get cheap properties. And I've done that in the past. It's a really good way to get properties. But what Kim's talking about is something blew my mind. And it doesn't even involve owning the property, but buying the property, which is incredibly risky. And there's so much due diligence that's required. And when I heard Kim's presentation about this, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a no-brainer. Like, we don't have to worry about buying houses sight unseen, and all these rules and bidding and overbidding and all. It's crazy. Like, that's a great strategy. But what Kim's doing is she's helping the people get their funds that are legally theirs, that the county is holding. And the county does very little to notify these people because essentially they want the money for their own uses, right, Kim?
Yeah, they definitely want the money for their own use. Because after a certain period of time, and most of them have, expiration dates for the time in which you can collect the funds. Some is a year, some is less than a year. And it just depends. Like you said, the rules and regulations around this market vary from state to state. There's no state that has, a cookie cutter rule or process. It is unique in each state. Each county is different, and that makes it a little challenging. But it's believe me, It may be a little challenging, but the processes to get the money are still at the core the same. Um, like you mentioned about, the county making little effort to notify these people. They are required in some states and some counties to notify them, but what they do is they send it to the old address, which they know is vacant and no longer occupied by that homeowner. So how many are going to get that notice?
Yeah.
Zero. Nobody's going to get the notice. And so they know this, and they're banking on these individuals not coming back to claim that money. They're banking on that. And when it does, it sheets back to the state. It goes back to the state, and they use it as discretionary funds for whatever they want to use it for. And then after that, of course, there is no chance of redeeming that money ever again. So it's really critical for people like you and me to get to these folks before that expiration date and help them to claim the money, because once it goes back, we that chance is gone forever.
Yeah. And a lot of times these properties go for, the taxes might be, 5,000. I've seen a couple, there are a couple hundred that the taxes that were owed when the foreclosure hit, and then the property gets bid way up.
Yep.
Even sometimes over market value. And these people don't even know that overage legally belongs to them. It's crazy.
It is. It's insane. It's insane. You think, wow, they lost their home for a couple of $100, and yet they have $40,000 that they can claim because someone overbid it on that property. I mean, think about that. That could be life-changing for somebody who lost their home for $200. You understand? So, the upside that I like about it as well is because I don't have to buy that property. Like you said, there's no rehab. I don't have to walk through. I don't even have to know where the property really is. To be quite honest with you, I've never seen 90%. Pictures are not even available sometimes on the properties.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I don't have upfront costs for rehabs. I don't have to worry about, buying the property. I don't have to, none of that. No title, no nothing. I don't have to do any of that work. Any of that due diligence, I don't have to do. There's a different type of due diligence that I must do, though, to collect those funds, but it is completely different from that other process that is required to own the property.
Yeah. And since I just started doing this, since I met you like a month ago, but I noticed that I was looking at properties that were like just big vacant plots of land in the middle of like some freeway or something that you'd never have any interest in buying as an investor yourself. And I thought that was really ironic that, you could, with this strategy, you can make money on something you would never be interested in otherwise, which is really cool. Right. And you're helping these people out, which I think is the best part. Because sometimes with these strategies, you may be helping the county out or something like that, or the bank, but you're not helping the people, and that's the cool part too.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have a really easy strategy the way you've laid it out. Do you want to go there and just talk about that?
Yeah. I when I first started doing this, I realized very quickly that it was actually a very systematic process. Everything, was based on a process that had to be systematically done and in order for me to realize any success with collecting funds. And so, but at the core of it, I realized there was very simply just 3 steps, just 3 simple steps. The first of which is to get the list, to get the list. Where are they located? Who do I contact? How do I get this list? Some counties will make it very difficult for you to get the list. Other counties are very simplistic. You can go online, download the list.
And these are lists of people that have just recently gone through tax.
These are lists of people that, look, these people could be on the list for 3 to 5 years. So it doesn't matter, but what they do is in the counties is they will add to the list every month or a quarter or whenever they have their tax sales. The overages from those tax sales will go on that list. There's some lists that I have that has, gosh, 5, 6, 7 years of money on the books that has not been collected yet.
Wow.
Some states have a 5-year expiration time, meaning that they have 5 years to collect that money, then that money is sheets to the state. But then there are other states that might have that 5-year limit, but they will allow you to still collect after the 5-year expiration date, and you can still collect on the money. So again, there's no cookie cutter rules. You just have to know what the processes are in order to, get the money off the books. So I'll have lists that, I typically do not go for properties that are less than a year old. I explain, in my training why that is. It's very important to know. You could lose money. Basically, the rule of the game is to not lose money before you even get started making money. But the get process is, the get part of the process is to get the list from the counties and find out which actually have overages or allow for overages to be collected. The second part is to find. You find the owners, the previous owners of those properties. Now, this could be a bit challenging because oftentimes, again, these people are not standing at the tax auction watching their properties go into the hands of somebody else. They've long gone abandoned. They've long since abandoned their properties and moved on, okay, to start anew or, to just start over. And so the challenge comes in finding out where they moved to. Do they have a forwarding address? Is there means that you can contact them? And one of the things that I do in the training is show people how to find individuals through different tools and mechanisms that are out there for finding and what they call skip tracing individuals to find out where they can be located and how to locate them, how to communicate with them so they don't think you're some scam artist, and how to make it clear that you can help them. So that's the find process, step of the process. The final step of the process or the method is file, to file the paperwork. Now, once you find the individuals and you've gotten them to agree to work with you to collect the money on their behalf, then you have to have them complete paperwork so that you can go forward to the taxing jurisdiction or wherever or whatever authority you must go to collect the funds. And you do so as a legitimate business is recommended. Now, it's not required, but it is strongly recommended because it's really important to establish credibility at the forefront. You're already going to be met with skepticism, okay? Because most people are thinking, oh my gosh, she's talking about I have $50,000, this could be a scam. Why, and they're already coming.
Anyways.
Yeah, they're already coming with these objections. Yeah. And so you want to make sure that you have an established business so that you can establish credibility right away with them and help them to feel at ease in doing business with you so that you can file that paperwork and get the check. Now, once you file the paperwork, and the money's on the books, you've already validated that and you verify that it is collectible, then you just have to wait. The counties will pay out anywhere from 60 to 120 days, okay? 120 days is the longest I've had to wait. Some of them wait till the last day of the 120 days to send you that check because they don't want to give you the money. Yeah. But it is worth the wait oftentimes because you've netted a 5-figure check, generally a 5-figure check. Now, there are some properties out there that will yield you a 6-figure check. But again, in the training, I show you how, you can calculate what it is, what kind of claims you want to work with in order to get the kind of money that you're looking to make from this business. Typically it's 4 to 5 figures though. It could be 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 25,000, $45,000 or more. It just depends on what area you're working out of, what state you're working within. It depends on the property, how much the overbid was, how long it's been on the books. There's so many factors or variables within that. But once you are trained on how to assess that properly, you definitely can, make a decision as to how you want to build this part of the business, part of this business in your current existing business.
Now, when I went through the training, you had mentioned a number that you said was the smallest check you've ever received for doing this. Are you okay with sharing that number?
Yeah, the smallest check that I've ever received to date, even still to date, it's amazing. Even after all this time, the smallest check was $21,479.
Wow.
$21,479. That was my smallest check.
And you're spending...
And that's
12
net.
hours on that one?
I spent approximately 8 hours. I would say 8 hours total. And that included all the due diligence, finding, on the property, finding the owner, sending emails, calls, things like that. Everything that I did, because I'm very corporate in that way when it comes to running my business. I keep track of everything just to know where my time is going and just to make sure that, my time, I'm getting paid for my time when I'm working on a project. And it's the same, I recommend this for anybody who's operating a business, a small business, is to evaluate where you're putting your time and understanding, what that equates to in terms of dollars. What is your time worth in terms of dollars? Because only then can you establish, or scale your business to grow. And so this was one of the ways that I kept track. I kept track of the amount of claims that I was processing every quarter. I kept track of what those claims would net me based on my percentage of what I was charging to get the claim. And then I broke it down in terms of, how many hours it took me to process that claim and get paid on it. And then I would see how much it would break down in terms of dollars per hour.
Right.
And was it worth it? Well, of course it was. $21,479, and I only did 8 hours of work. You do the math. Really?
And knowing you, and from what I've talked to you, you're a busy woman. You've got another whole side of your business. You're running TEDx in Dallas.
Yes.
So you got a lot going on. So obviously you're not spending all of your time on this overages business.
No. When I was introduced to the overages business, when I discovered it and learned about it, I already had my business. My business was already operating. One of the things that I was planning on doing at the time I came across overages was finding a way to level out the income. And because it was a peaks and valley thing for me, there were peaks where I would get, large revenue streams. And then there were peaks where I wasn't getting so much. And so I would have to kind of stretch it. And I thought I've got to find another stream of income to supplement these peaks, these low valleys, these valleys I was having in my business. And I was looking at things like online e-commerce stores. And I was looking at all these other things, but it required so much money to front it and to expense it to get it started that I was like, okay, that's not practical, because I'm still looking at, 3 to 6 months before it even takes off, and I have to market and I have to do all these other things. I didn't want to do that kind of work. I was like, okay, no, I didn't want to spend that kind of money. I didn't want to do that kind of work. So I thought, okay, there's got to be another way. And then I came across this and I was like, okay, well, if I work, you know, part-time at this, and I do this, say, 8 hours a week, all right, just 8 hours a week, I could, and and one check will yield me this, 5 figures. That's pretty darn good in the next 90 days. If I can, front load my claims in the next 90 days, I'll be getting all these checks coming in, right? So I thought, wow, this is a no-brainer. And the upfront cost for me to do that per claim was less than the amount of money that I would have spent to buy inventory for an e-commerce store. It just made sense. Each claim, depending on the county you work in, of course, it costs me less than $300 to process. Each claim, less than $300 to process. And that was, because of the expenses of, getting the paperwork processed. But when I looked at $300 versus a net of, $21,000, it was, worth it to me. Okay. So I figured, the way I could do this was to plan how many claims I would work in a quarter, and then plan how much that would net me per quarter so that I could plan my income for the year. And that was income outside of my regular business, outside of my business that I was already operating and running. And I knew then that I was like, okay, after that, I was like, I'm sold. When I got my first check, I was like, oh, there's nothing else. My even things I'm doing in my current business wasn't comparing to what this was bringing me. So
you were saying you had a plan, but how has that plan worked? Because obviously you're still relying on being able to find people. Has it been able to be like a plan thing, or is it still sort of feast or famine coming in?
No. Actually, again, it's every quarter. I already know how much money is coming in because I've already front loaded that money back in, let's say, the last quarter of last year. Yep. So I have checks coming in now that I processed for claims that I processed in the last quarter of last year. Okay. So for me, it's always being a step ahead. So the claims that I'm working on now in the business, the claims that I'm processing now in my business won't pay out until the third and fourth quarter of this year. Right. Yeah. So that's what I mean when I say, you plan, I plan. So I know that claims that I work on are not going to pay out until probably late August, early September that I'm working on now. Sure. And so because of my time constraints, I'm not working as many claims. So I know that I won't get as much in, August or September, but that's okay. You understand? Because I already know what that amount is going to be.
The other thing I love about this is how scalable it is.
Oh, yeah.
You don't necessarily have to be doing all this work yourself because it's really not rocket science. Once you figure it out, it can be farmed out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can scale this as big as you want. You can build a team as big as you want. I have partners that I work with out of Florida because Florida is a little bit of a tricky state in terms of the laws. And so it does take someone who has some real estate savvy there to navigate a little bit. But the properties, because of the market and the high rate of net profit on each transaction, it's worth it for me to partner with somebody and split that. You understand? So because the net return is very large. It's great. It's a great net return on each one that I work out of the state of Florida. It may be fewer, but it's still, it's still worth it to get into that market and work with somebody who easily.
Yeah. And guys that are watching, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat bar, and Kim would be happy to answer them.
My glasses on so I can see.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, to me, it sounds really overwhelming if you have the entire United States and how many counties are in the US. I mean, how do you know even where to start?
Yeah. I did the research. I'll go on that, but I really couldn't tell you right now some ridiculous amount of counties. There are 3 states though that do not allow overages. I believe Michigan is one of them, Utah and Arizona. Do not allow overage collection. They just keep the money.
Wow.
They just
At least they're honest about it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, no, you can't claim this. You can't claim this. So we're not allowed to collect out of those states. Some states also have, stricter regulations. California is one of those. They have a little bit stricter regulations. Texas is its own, kind of animal with it as well, because they require, I think within 2 years you have to redeem, but it's a what they call an attorney state. So everything that is done on any claim has to be processed through an attorney that is licensed in the state of Texas. So there are some states that have those rules where you have to work with an attorney that is legally registered or licensed in that state. And then there are other states that they don't have those regulations. It's a lot easier to work within. And again, it's not even just the states, it's counties. Counties have they have their own rules and regulations. They're run by different, they're governed by the same rules, but they run things in their own way. Okay, so you just have to learn what those regulations are and learn what the process of a particular county that you want to work within. And once you do that, then you're able to, make the claim and generate the profits that you want to. So, yeah.
What's the biggest challenge with this whole overage business for you that you found, even if you were just learning or whatever?
I think the biggest challenge is just maintaining consistency, being consistent and being persistent, because it is a systematic process, and we live in such a I want it now, yesterday kind of thing. It's very difficult for people to just have that stick-to-itiveness to wait for the results to come as a result of the work that they do over time. It's not get rich quick. It's not quick at all. It's a process. And so it's not quick at all. But if you have the patience to go through the process, I promise you, you will see some results. You will get your first check. Once you land that first one, though, I mean, it's always just sticking to it till you get that first one. I know for me, when I first started, because I'm so determined to see results, I'm determined to see them. So it's like, I'm going to see some results. So I'm going to keep going, keep punching at it, and keep doing it until I see some results. Now, everybody doesn't have that. Some people are like, well, after the first few tries, this isn't working for me. Okay. Yeah. But it's not that it's not working for you. It's just that this is something that doesn't work with, your style of working. I had one lady tell me, she says, no, this seems great, but I like my money like now. I like my money, like instantly. So for her, it was more about e-commerce, getting quick results, creating a product, selling the product. For me, I don't want to create products. I do, but I don't want to do that all the time just to keep money coming in. What's important about the consistency in this process is that over time, you develop relationships with the people that you're working with in the counties. And as a result of those relationships, your claims get processed a lot quicker. And those relationships are going to help you to develop, your business faster, and you're going to see more results quicker. And, you might even get a tip or two, okay, about something else that's coming down the pike. Or, there's this property that's going up for tax sale, but I know the owner doesn't live there anymore and they might be over here. You might want to check that. So there's, now I'm getting information given to me because of the relationships that I've built over these last 3 years with the counties that I work within. They know me.
How I know this isn't necessarily real estate per se, really, but how it's not really about money. It's not really about spreadsheets. It's not about numbers. It's just all about relationships and people. No matter how you go and slice this business, it's all about people and relationships.
It really is.
And the more you just take action and go through it and talk to people,
right,
brave and call or ask the questions, it's amazing how this whole world just opens up.
It'll open up. Exactly.
Yeah. I found when I was getting started just with real estate in general, and this too, it's scary because you don't know anything, and you're wanting to get help from people, and you think that they're not going to tell you, and you want these people that you're trying to help to trust you. But once you do it, and you just realize that it just starts flowing in, right?
Yeah.
You just got to go and pave that path and build those relationships.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that, if you have the ability to be consistent, and you want to work it in your time, in your own pace, because this is not something that you can, that you just can do quickly. You've got to go through the process. Each step is a process. It might take a week to get the paperwork from the client. It might take another week to file the paperwork with the county. It might take another week for the attorney to review that, so it's really, but if you go through the steps in the process, it will pay off, because why? The money is on the books.
Yeah.
The money is there. It's not a question of, will I get paid when I do all this work? You will. You have to. It's the law. The law says you must get paid. All right. So it's not a matter of if I'll get paid. It's when you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid once the process is complete. And when the process is complete, then they will send you a check. It is that simple. Yeah. And when they send you that check, I promise you, you're going to sit there and look at it for a good 20 minutes or so. I think I did the first check. I was like, okay, this is unreal. Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And I didn't even, contact my client right away, when I got the check the first time, because I was like, I just have to relish this.
Let's just have this moment together.
Let me just have this moment with this check by myself before I give him his cut, right? But it is so rewarding to know that it changes not only your financial landscape, but it changes the lives of those people that you collected. Believe me, whether you take 30% or 40%, and in some cases, some people have taken 50% of the amount collected, all right? It doesn't matter, because any amount to someone who has lost their home to a tax foreclosure sale is a miracle to them.
Because they wouldn't have it otherwise.
They certainly wouldn't even know about it. So they are counting it, major miracle in their lives when you come along and give them a check for $20,000. You see, and you still walk away, with 15, 20,000 in your pocket. You see, so yeah, it's a win-win for everybody, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is they've been doing tax foreclosures for how many hundreds of years? And I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. So as long as they keep the laws the way they are.
Yeah, and that's not only a truth, but it's a sad truth, because people are going to continue to lose their homes.
Yeah.
That's that's just the nature of the beast. And the economy that we live in right now is so unpredictable, and people are just so uncertain about every aspect of their lives that and their financial stability is threatened on every front. It's a sad state that we live in, that people are losing their homes to tax foreclosure sales in this day and age. And it's not going to end. It's not. It's just simply not going to end. There's always going to be money on the table. There's some 3,500 tax sales every single day.
Wow.
Across the U.S.
I wonder how many millions of dollars are on the books right now waiting to be claimed.
Well, I think I had that statistic on my slide at the event, but I can't remember what it was. 14 million. No, it's 14 billion. It had to be $14 billion. It was some ridiculous number, ridiculous amount of money on the table.
So is this why you're cool with teaching your strategy to some other people? It's just because there's so much possibility out there.
There's so much money on the table. There are so few people collecting.
Mm-hmm.
There are just not enough folks out there collecting the money. And again, I think it's attributed to the fact that a lot of people just don't have the stick-to-itiveness to go through the process to collect the money. They know it's there, but they don't want to do the work to get the money.
Yeah.
That's the sad part, And so what ends up happening is the state either recoups it, or somebody like you or I go out there and we collect on behalf of the homeowner. But it's so few of us. So there's no competition.
You haven't run into much competition since you've been doing it? No.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all.
Amazing.
And when I look at the reports that I pull for the counties that I work in, every month there is $4 or $5 million on that books, on the books.
Amazing.
So for me personally, I don't go after claims that are less than $25,000. Now, there's a lot of claims out there less than $25,000. But again, because I look at it in terms of what that breaks down to in my hourly rate, dollar amount per hour and things like, I look at all that. And so when I look at that, I look at, is this worth my time to work a claim that is less than this amount of money? And if I say no, then I don't work it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your course then, because you train people on how to do this strategy, obviously, and I've been through your intro course, which is amazing. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, I have an online course. It's called the GFF Method, Get, Find, File. And it is currently out. It's in my Smart to Go. I call it Smart to Go training library. And there's some other training videos out there as well. But it is an intensive. It is a 5.5 hours training. Plus, it has all the video. It's an intensive recorded, pre-recorded intensive. And then it has all the videos for each segment of the intensive. So the Get segment is its own training segment. So it has all the videos for that. The Find the same, and the File the same. So each step of the process is broken down into its own video training, as well as the intensive. Now, the intensive is simply me on screen like this, talking to you about the process that we're studying. So if it's the Get process, then I go through that process with you and in the intensive part. But in the video library, you have access to each step that I explain in the intensive. So, and all the downloads. So if there are worksheets, if there are charts or anything, forms or paperwork, that needs to be, that is referenced in that intensive section, then you have access to getting that as well. It's comprehensive. It's everything, literally everything that I know about doing this business, even with some of my own missteps, in the process, so that you don't make the same mistakes I made. Right?
I've actually tried. I've been trying. I went against some of your rules and ended up at a brick wall. So sometimes you got to touch the stove.
Okay. Just to know it's hot.
Yeah.
But so I share those because I want you to have an easier go at this than I did when I first started. But you have access to all the forms, all the templates, all the letters, all the marketing materials that I've used to send out to claimants to communicate with them, all the paperwork that's required for them to sign, instructions for your notary, etc. Everything that you need for each step of this process, get, find, and file, so that you can get your first check, okay, your first check. And then you can definitely tailor it after you get through that first check. You can tailor it to suit your needs in any way you feel necessary. But I recommend that you follow through with what is laid out in the training first before you go, altering it and trying to figure out how to do it a different way. Because if anybody can tell you that I've scaled this back to the core, it's me, because so overwhelmed with all the things and information that I was getting at the beginning. I didn't know what was what. I didn't realize, what was of value and what was just, I didn't need. I had to learn to discard some of the stuff because I realized it was just useless information. And so I scaled it down to its bare bones. And there's no more meat to pull off the bone, so to speak. And it's really as clean as I could get it, and as simplistic as I could get it, so that people could grasp this and understand that it is not as complicated as some of these other folks out there training it to be. And I've spent, thousands of dollars, trust me, on, trying to get the information right. But it really just took my own, initiative to do that in a way that I thought, wait a minute, this is way simpler than everybody making it to be. It's just 3 steps. So get, find, file. That's it. And so now that's what I train on, and it's pretty simple. The training is, I have it at a scholarship seating price of $497. You get lifetime access to everything that's in there. I do update it periodically with updates to information. Maybe a state changes a rule, or maybe a form for a state changes, and I'll put it out there so that you have complete access to it. But it's pretty comprehensive, and I have a 24/7 email question and answer on whenever you have a concern or anything like that. I'm pretty open to helping people get through the process. So I want you to be successful.
Well, here was my experience, Kim, is when I first saw you talk about this, it was a conversation like we're having here. And my partner, Clint, and I went home and we're like, we can figure this out. So we spent the next day trying to figure it out. And then we stopped. So, I mean, it's definitely doable. You could figure this out, but there's a lot of weeds you got to dig through to figure it out. So once we went through this training that you're talking about, your online training, everything really is there to get going. And I was amazed at actually how simple it is. Like, yes, there's work involved and there's things you need to do, but the process itself is very simple. And what I loved about it is once you get the paperwork signed, you just wait. Whereas like all the other real estate I've done, once you get the property, then you're like, oh my God, now I got to do something with this. Whereas this business, once you get that paperwork signed, you're just waiting to get paid. And I love that. So yeah, like we sent out our first round of marketing, and we've already been getting calls come in. So it's proving to me that this actually works.
Yeah.
And like you
Yeah.
say, like you can fish for a while, but once you pull in something, then you get hooked, right? So yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And again, it's persistence. It's not giving up on the process. I used to hear that a lot when I was younger. Don't give up on the process. Stay with the process. And it was like, you're gritting your teeth. You don't want to go through the process, but you realize that it is in the process that the profits come.
Yeah.
So if you just stick to it and reach out when you need help and just keep chugging along, you will get there. It will pay off in leaps and bounds. I promised you. I love this part of my business. I'm going to always do this. I'm going to always do this. And the reason I know I'm going to always do it is because the market is inexhaustible. There's always going to be money on the table. And so as long as I know that, I can always know that I can generate an income from it. Always. I can always generate an income from it. If I follow the process, I can always generate an income. So I've got it now. For me, I've got it set up systematically where I work a certain amount of claims per quarter, and I know that quarter is going to pay out with maximum 120 days out.
Now, sorry, I interrupted you there, Kim. Do you have another, I guess, higher up, more intensive training, or is this just the online training?
It's just the online training for now.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mike and I are talking about doing something live, later in the year.
Yep.
But for now, it's just the intensive and the online training. I do have a Facebook group for all those who are enrolled in the online training to, congregate and ask questions and things like that. That's available through the training. So you'll see a link where you can join the Facebook group and connect with me that way as well for extra help if you need it. And again, your success is my priority. I want you to succeed in this because I know what it can do to change your landscape, your financial landscape. And, for those of you who really want to get into the investing part of the your real estate business, if you really want to develop that, you've got to have capital.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have capital to do that. And sometimes, hard money lenders or, other sources of lending, it's just not available. And if you want to, strategize, create a strategy to be profitable, you've got to have a reserve of capital. So why not work claims to build your reserve for your capital and then invest? Because now you're relying only on yourself. You understand? You're only relying on yourself. After 4 or 5 claims, you'll have as much as you want to invest in your real estate and then buy properties, So that to me, is a strategy that is realistic. It is something that you can definitely do if that's what you choose to.
Yeah. And so then you can go after buying the property before the auction, then you can go to the auction and try and buy it, and then you can get the claims after. You can tackle it from all angles. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You gotta be smart. You gotta be smart about it. Be smart about it.
Yeah.
Work it in, come up with a different angle to make this work for you, because it will. Just got to figure out, whether or not, you can really work it in.
Well,
really,
it's like everything, right? It's like working out. You got to make time for it. You got to have a plan. And you just got to follow through and be consistent.
That's right. That's right. Again, when I first started, it was like, okay, I could do this for 8 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And as long as I stuck to that 8 hours a week, I felt like I was fulfilling my commitment to it.
Yeah. And you don't have to be doing this. This is the kind of business, what I'm finding anyways, Kim, is you don't have to be open for business during 9 to 5. So if you have another job or something, I mean, you're going to get phone calls, but as long as you're following up, you don't need to do this like a
Yeah.
standard business. You can do it after hours or whatever you need to do.
Right. I mean, you know, wealthy people are very mindful of having multiple income.
Mm-hmm.
That is their thing. You know, it's not, you can never have enough streams of income.
That's right.
And, you know, you find something that will generate, you know, 5-6 figures for you a year, month, or whatever your goals are financially, then it's something to look at. It's something to consider, because you can't have enough. You can't have enough multiple streams of income.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So how can people find out more about this, Kim?
Okay, can I put it in the chat? Let me see if I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, you should be able to chat still.
Let me see what
And if you guys have any questions for Kim, feel free to type it in.
Yeah, please ask questions. I like questions.
Yeah, let's open it up.
So let me do this. I'm gonna put the link.
And if you're watching a recorded version of this, you can feel free to comment under the video or contact Kim and I over social media as well. So.
Okay. And I'm gonna put this here. All right. Here is the course link.
Perfect.
Oh, did I put? Oh, yeah, I put to all panelists. I should have been to everybody. Oh, I should have put it to everybody.
Oh, that just went to me.
Yeah, hang on. There we go.
There we go.
So that's where you can go to register for the course. Got some great testimonials for the course. So it is comprehensive, like I said, and I do update the data in there if there's a change. It says, do you need to be present at auctions to know which properties were sold? No, you do not. In fact, when you get the list will have all the properties that that were sold at auction, but the ones that have overbids. Let me give you a quick tip. If you're looking at a county that posts their auctions that are coming up, a good trick to do is to go into that site the month before the auction sale, because they will list the properties that are coming up for auction on the next sale. You don't know whether or not they're going to be overbidded on, but what you will know is what properties are going up for sale. And so when the sale does happen and you go get the list for that county, you can look and compare which properties didn't, because sometimes on the properties that are going up for sale, they will have the name of that previous owner and the current information for you to contact them.
Bingo.
Bingo. Did the bell go off? Because oftentimes, again, when they're before it goes to sale, they will list the properties that are going to sell, but on that list of properties that are going to sell, they will have the current name of the homeowner, because the property hasn't gone to sale yet, so it's still owned by that owner, and it will have their current email, the current phone number and mailing address. And it always is a benefit when you're going back to that owner after the sale to have that information, because now it'd be easier to find them based on that information.
That is awesome. I never even saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a huge tip. That's a huge tip. That's one I use often. All right.
But you don't need that, because the lists are the county provides those lists. So you don't have to know what's going on at the auction.
Right. No, you don't have to know what's going on at the auction, whether, because the county will provide you with the list of properties that have sold at auction. But oftentimes what those lists omit is information about that previous owner.
Right. You got to be the detective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kim, do you mind if I post this link under the video as well when we post
Move right ahead.
or whatever? Okay. Just
Yeah,
want to make
yeah.
sure. So guys, yeah, if
Go
you're
right.
watching, the link should be below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the pricing on the course is what we call scholarship pricing. And that's low because usually what I would sell this, for is like $9.97. To sit in, to do the intensive live and to be included in the course. And I thought, for me, it was more about just getting the information out there, because there just aren't people doing this. There just aren't. And I always hear people tell me in my other side of my business, I'm just looking for something else to supplement my income. And, I need to find something that's going to pay me more than, I want to quit my job or I want to walk out of corporate. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, it's a lot of people that need this type of revenue stream, but not enough people know that it is even out there, that it even exists for them. So it was more important to me to put it out there as a scholarship, course, which is a much lower price than the $9.97. Okay, so.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your other side of your business. Do you mind?
Yeah.
I'm interested in that.
When I started my business, I started as a business that was consulting nonprofit organizations. And then I rebranded about 8 years in and thought, you know what, this is more than about nonprofit, work. This is about creating legacies. And so what I do is I educate and empower people on how to build financial legacies. And what has really been kind of a full circle moment for me in my business with this Overages business is that because it actually helps other people restart their lives or, get on the path of restarting their lives financially, I get an opportunity to talk to them about taking some of the money that they do get back and investing it in their financial future. So I help them to lay out a strategy for taking their windfall and making it a lifelong financial legacy. And believe me, people are like, they don't think about those kind of things from that level. And they think, wow, I have an opportunity to really build something here. Now I'm not just going to blow this money on on things that are not going to, appreciate over time. And that's not going to bring a financial stability for my family. And so I talked to them about taking a portion of their money, enjoying some of it, of course, but, looking at it from the perspective of how do I build a financial legacy for my family, and sharing with them ideas and tools and strategies to do that effectively so that $20,000 can turn into $100,000 in 6 years, how, some of the instruments and things that I share with respect to investing, in commodities and in precious metals and things like that, and helping them to understand how, economics play a role in their overall financial success. So it's not just about, to me, financial literacy as much as it is about financial capability. Being capable means that you are planning your money to work for you, that you are initiating and deploying it to generate more wealth, and versus just balancing a checkbook or, making sure you're staying within your budget, or that's all financial literacy. That's not financial capability. And so that's where my expertise lies, is in the financial capability part, where I take you a step further and help you to understand that it's more than that. It's about developing a plan and strategy for creating a financial future for yourself and for your family, and in the event that you are no longer with us. So, yeah.
Well, this is amazing, Kim, because one of the things I get frustrated about in real estate is a lot of these people get themselves in situations, foreclosure, tax foreclosure, whatever it is. And it's because the way they're thinking about money and about life, they just don't have the education or the means to make it change. And so we buy a house cash and they get a big influx of cash coming in. I can predict probably they might just end up in that same situation again, because they're going to take that cash they've got and it's going to be blown, or, whatever it is, because just their mindset and their knowledge that they have, they don't know how to invest. They don't know how to make, have a different pattern with money. And I would love to be able to help more people. Once we help them with their house, help them get to someplace better, like you're saying, instead of just having the same cycle repeat again. You know what I mean? Buy a fancy car with the money and then be back into, foreclosure 5 years from now or something like that. So I think it's amazing.
Our society as a whole is all about consumerism.
Yeah.
It's all about, the consumption of stuff. And so, we're brainwashed on a daily basis to buy more stuff because the commercials are designed to make us feel like we're not enough if we don't have it.
Yeah.
And so, it is a mindset shift. It is a mindset shift, but there are triggers, things that can trigger them to shift more easily. For example, someone who's young, married, and no children has a different mindset than those that are young, married, and have children, because now their children are the priority and they're thinking more about the children than they are themselves. Yeah. And so it's much easier to get a married, couple with a family to understand the idea or concept of legacy versus someone who doesn't have children, because they're not thinking about that right now. They're just thinking about enjoying things right now. And so it's a different mindset shift. And you're right. There are people that, have won lottery millions of dollars and lost it in less than 2 or 3 years. And it's about what they think about money and how they view it and their beliefs behind it. And that is a lot of work sometimes to get people to own their money story, whatever that is, and to make that shift so that they can become financially independent and financially secure in the future. It's not an easy game. It's not an easy task sometimes. And you can only help those who want to help themselves. That's all I say.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome. I definitely want to talk to you more about this sometime, because I think maybe there's ways that I can send you some clients from some of the people that we're, buying houses from and things like that.
Yeah. And again, you're working overages. It's the same thing with you. You can show them, another way to invest in their future. Owning real estate is the best, it's the best way to become wealthy. It is absolutely the best way, but not everybody has the resources readily accessible to them to make those types of investments as quickly, right? So, it's about educating folks on how to, how to start where you are. This overages piece is a start where you are kind of business. To get into the game. It was my answer to leveraging or, to leveling out my income stream through the year versus having peaks and valleys throughout the year. Not certain when I was going to get, money paid from clients and things like this. I didn't have to worry about that anymore. And so, but it also allowed me to build a reservoir of cash reserve in the event that I wanted to purchase a property or want to invest in a property and I wanted to do tax deeds or liens or whatever it is I wanted to do to invest in myself, whether it was to invest in commodities, invest in the stock market, I had this reservoir of cash that I could go to and do that with because of the overages payouts.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah. Cash is king. If you've got it, then you can make things happen in your life.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's really, again, changing the mindset, being financially capable, being strategic about how to make your money work for you, and finding additional streams of revenue. If you've ever read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, it is by George S. Clayson. It talks about seven principles for wealth creation. And one of the principles in the book is about investing in real estate, owning your home, owning homes in this day and age, but also generating more revenue streams. Generating more revenue streams. See, people are too busy thinking, oh, well, if I got one revenue, I don't need, you need more than one in this age.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome, Kim. Well, I guess we're already 10 minutes over an hour. Amazing.
Wow. That was quick.
Yeah, it went by fast. If any of you guys have any extra questions, feel free to type them in right now. And we'll stay on for a couple more minutes just for that. But thank you so much, Kim, for coming on. And I know we had to postpone this an hour, and I really appreciate everyone that came on for accommodating. We had my daughter had a play tonight that we found out the last minute. So thank all of you for accommodating me on that. As I was saying to you earlier, Kim, the reason that we get into this business is to buy our freedom back.
Right.
So having the flexibility to show up at your daughter's play and things like that. I mean, that's why most of us choose real estate, right? We don't want to have to be tied to that desk and having to miss all those important events no matter what. So that reinforced that for me. So thank you. But otherwise, yeah, guys, so we've got the link. I'm going to post it below this video. Feel free to check out Kim's training. I am through it, and it is amazing. Everything there is laid out perfectly and simplistically, so you can get started on your own overage business. And all it takes is a little bit of try and commitment and consistency, and you guys can get this going, I'd say, within 30 days. Thanks to Kim getting rid of all the weeds and making a clear path to follow with this strategy that hardly anyone knows about. So,
well, I'm going to answer Joe real quick. He asked, can the whole process be done from home? Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. The whole process can be done from home. Like I said, no matter where you live, you can do this business. And it doesn't matter where the property is, as long as it's in a state that allows for overage collection, you can collect. So yes, you can definitely do this from home. I've never visited one single property that I have filed a claim for. Not once. Not once.
And Joe, if you have a U.S. company, that helps a lot.
Having a established business in the U.S. is definitely a plus.
Yeah.
You have to have that in order to be really successful with this.
Yeah. So if any of you guys need help with setting up companies and accounts as a Canadian, just let me know, because I can help you with that as well. So.
Yes.
All right, Kim. Well, thank you. I'll let you have the rest of your evening, but thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your evening to join me and allow me an opportunity to share this with you. Thank you and take care.
Have a great night, everyone.